and welcome to New Earth Lifestyles. The sound of the gong, our invitation to breathe. I'm JaneE King, and welcome. And thank you to manchestertv.org for this lovely space and studio and the opportunity to bring to you new ways of looking at your life, New Earth lifestyles, New Earth meaning new consciousness, new ways of human beings as me and you and I and all people to come to a place of health and healing and joy and prosperity, looking at ways to bring your life to that point of really excelling at what you do. And the singing bowl is one of those tools that I use to remind me that there's more to life, and there's an opportunity moment to moment to look within and connect with a higher source, a deeper source, a greater source, which some call the I am presence. I am. And there is a place in the Isaiah effect, or in the Isaiah connection, that says that I am is the place where we are God. And I know it came up on one of my previous shows when I was interviewing a person from Boulder, my friend Isabel from Boulder, Colorado, on the telephone about how can we say that we are God, and the I am presence. Basically what this show is about, New Earth Lifestyles, has a premise, or underneath it, a core direction, I guess you could say, of us human beings working toward living our life as if we are working toward being fully and embodied in God, in our God self, in the highest presence, in the highest, greatest way possible, which means that we live by the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The one rule, the one thing, the one way to live your life, constantly, continually, moment to moment, every single minute of your life. What if you could live your life that way? You would elevate yourself to the point of becoming closer and closer to God. But ultimately, I believe that the Bible does teach us, and that those who are on that enlightenment path, the masters who are walking on this earth, say like the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Pope, religious leaders, if they are truly aligned to bringing us the information about God, about the highest and best we can be, they are all searching and attaining and wanting to attain and striving toward, I guess is a better word, striving toward becoming the light and the love that is what we consider God. And we do think about God as being in everything and everywhere, in everything, everywhere, meaning in everything physical and everything non-physical, in our voice, in our vibration, in the universe, not only on the earth, but everywhere. The creator, the grand creator of all things. So if we come from that understanding that what we imply as God, creating everything, the creator of all that we know, the whole universe, the whole, as far as we can think outside of ourselves, plus as far as we can think inside of ourselves, as far as we can go into the eternity within us, the infinity inside of us, inside of ourselves, inside of our DNA, as being the divine, the source energy, creative force of all things, then in fact, we are the I am presence, and we are striving to live from that in this physical body. And there is a saying, I don't know who said it, that states that we are all spiritual beings living in a physical body, in a human body, striving toward being that spiritual being that we know we are. And that also talks about or moves us into the place of being infinite beings and never dying. And I know I've spoken about that on the show before, and that also speaks to it. If we're infinite beings, never dying on the realms of not being physical, on the spiritual realms, then we are one with God, right? We are one with this vibration or this essence or this truth, this creative process, this creative force, source, energy, creator, which in the Christian faith we call God. In other faiths we call Great Spirit in the native traditions. In other traditions they may call Allah, or I'm not sure what the other traditions say other than those. However, all of that is all there is, and we as human beings are striving to live from that place, is my understanding of it all. So I just wanted to start with that understanding or setting the groundwork for what I wanted to talk about today. And so I'm JaneE King, your host of the show today, New Earth Lifestyles, in fact, the producer of this show. And I'm very grateful day after day after day for the opportunity to give to you, the viewer, the audience, 1 hour of my time every week to give you new perspectives. These are my perspectives that I've come to understand. And when I've spoken before about where I come from, how I have evolved into this moment and this understanding that I just expressed to you. How I have done that has been through my own trials and tribulations. And so from this perspective, let me back up a little bit now and tell you about who I have grown from. In other words, I grew up in an Anglo-Saxon Protestant family in southeastern Massachusetts, and I grew up in a congregational church, the UCC, United Church of Christ. And that church, my parents wanted me to go to church. I have a big family. We all got dressed up every Sunday morning. My mother would go to church with us. My father never. He only went to church when he had to, because he didn't like church. But my mother dressed us up. We went to church every Sunday. We really loved to dress up for Easter and for Christmas. And the congregational church was very a soft belief system around Christianity, I must say. In other words, there were not a lot of rituals as far as communion, or we took communion only at Christmas and Easter, I believe. And so there was not a lot of strictness to it. It was kind of an easy or gentle service. We sang hymns and we heard the sermon, but we did not have to genuflect. We did not have to do rosaries. We did not have confessions or things like that. So I feel privileged, and I think that God kind of put me into that gentle way of being raised, so that I was able to sort of open up to what I believe in now in a more gentler way. Because that all ties into this. I did grow up a Christian, and I did grow up understanding on some level the Bible and the life of Jesus. However, I've come to understand it from a different perspective now, and that is that we're all here to attain or to move toward our God self, to move toward God and to becoming the pure love that I believe God is. And I believe that God is love everywhere in the universe. Not just on Earth, but in all planets, in all galaxies, for as far as you can even conceive of, everywhere. And that God, that creative process, that creative force, is what I've come to understand as pure consciousness, which is a vibration. And vibration is all that there is. as I have come to understand through my healing process and through going to healing school and through studying different modalities of healing and different indigenous cultures' ways of connecting, love is the anchor. Love is universal in all religions. All religions teach us that love is all there is. And love is God. God is love. What is love? I've been thinking about, well, how can we even define love? But it seems to me now that if you think about God and love being the same, then we strive to be loving in our lives, brings us toward being godly, God in our lives. And that is where I am in this moment. So let's have a gong to that understanding. And become curious. So become curious about your own background and your own life and where you are in this moment. What brought you to this moment right now? How are you feeling? How does this resonate with you? So this is an opportunity for you to look at your life and your perspectives and your thoughts and your beliefs and say, what did I just say? Did that tweak some things inside of you that didn't feel good? Or did that kind of resonate? Yeah, I agree with that. And feel free to call in if you have any questions or thoughts on that. This is a call-in show today on Thursday, August 7th, and the number is 603-413-0223. I'd love to hear from you if you have any comments about this subject today. And so there you have it. You can call in at any point in time. And this is all leading up to a video, a DVD, a movie, a documentary that I'm going to be showing in a few weeks in New London Library. It's called I Am. I Am. Now, I just got through talking about I Am being what some mystics call another word or another way of saying God. I am. And so I Am is, I'm sorry, there's a little reflection there. There you go. Is a video, a DVD created by Tom Shadyac, who was the director of a lot of the Jim Carrey movies. And this DVD talks about I am and why and how to live our lives from a place. Or it actually asks the question, this movie, for two questions. What's wrong with our world? And what can we do about it? And this movie, Tom talks about an accident that he had that changed his life and started searching and asking this question of different spiritual leaders and historians and different people all around the world, asking the question, what's wrong with our world and how can we change it? And he named the movie I Am, not even realizing that that is a way of saying another word for saying God, I am. And there, for Tom Shadyac, the producer and the director of this DVD, who also directed Bruce Almighty, you might know, and what are some of the other ones he produced? Bruce Almighty, all of the Jim Carrey movies that are tremendous comedies if you like that kind of comedy. But he had this life-changing experience that had him facing death, basically. He had a mountain bike accident, he got a concussion and broke his arm. And when he came out of that, he had this syndrome, a concussion syndrome that kept him not able to function and having tremendous headaches and seeing lights and not able to go. He had to stay secluded for a long period of time. And so he was facing his own death. And he came to the conclusion that I'm done. There's nothing else I can do. And he went from being a very well-known and decorated movie producer, a director rather, to facing his own mortality, facing his own, there's nothing I can do. I can't function this way. He was seeing spots. He was having headaches. He was hearing voice ringing in his ears constantly from this accident of having a concussion. And the medical field had no hope for him. There's nothing that could have been done any more than he did. So he went and he experimented with alternative therapies. And even in that direction, he was not able to help himself, or did not help him from heal from these from the ringing in his ears and this concussion problem that he continued to have. However, when he made the realization that he was done, he was giving up, he was facing the end of his life as he knew it, things started to change. Things started to turn around. These symptoms that he had, when he started to question, why am I here? Who am I? And what is the point of all this? Things started to change for him, and that's what the movie's about. And that's he had the ability to then go out and interview these people about what's wrong with the world and how can we change it. Because he started asking questions. When you face death, when you realize there's nothing else I can do, I'm done. I can't do anything else. I can't function the way I used to. He became secluded. Everything bothered him. Light bothered him. He was very sensitive to movement and sound and colors and lights. And so he was facing death. He was facing the fact that he could not function in the world any longer. And how many people are like that in this world? A lot of people have had accidents or things happen to them in their lives where they've come to the end. They've come to this realization that what can I do anymore? Nothing. And when he came to that conclusion, he started questioning, well, why am I here? And what is life all about? And how can I change it? He wanted to put a message out into the world of what he believed and what he thought about life. And that's what geared him toward making this documentary. And basically, this documentary comes around to really questioning God and what is God all about? And who are we as human beings on this planet? And what do you believe? How can we make life better? What is the human experience all about? Why are we here? What is humanity doing here? And this video or DVD, they really show through scientific studies that the humanity, we are truly hardwired in our brain, in our physiology, in our DNA, to be compassionate, to be caring, to be kind. In fact, they show in this documentary not only that, but that all of nature of which we are a part, also is hardwired for compassion, for caring, for love. We're hardwired for that. And so on that note, there is something in our brain called mirror neurons. Mirror neurons. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I know I have. I'm sure you have if you think about it. And this experience is when you're watching a movie. Say you're watching a movie that is a real human experience, and you really feel the love or the unexpected change of open-heartedness that happens in this movie, and you might even start to cry. What is the mechanism in your body that connects you into the feelings that you're feeling to that movie, into your own body? Those are called the mirror neurons that are in our brain. And what it actually is happening is what you are seeing, what you're experiencing on the TV screen or in life, however that is, the mirror neurons are triggering the emotions, the same emotions. So they're mirroring for you an emotional reaction to what's happening in the world or what's happening in the movie that you're watching. These are hardwired neurons in our physiology. And not only do we have this, but other animals also have this mirror neurons of empathy, basically. So this is an empathic response that we have. And I know a long time ago, ABC Sports used to always show the Olympics. And it's not like that anymore, but I used to love to watch the Olympics every year. And ABC, I can't remember the guy's name, the commentator, but before they started the Olympics every year, they always showed this ski jumper that came down and jumped, and he crashed at the bottom, and that was always such a terrible thing to feel. I could feel what this person went through, and that was an old film that they used to play that in the beginning of, I guess we want to be gone, dear. when they started the Olympics, that was one of the clips that they used to always show, was this what do you call it, ski jumper who failed at the bottom and crashed, and the tremendous, horrendous feeling of watching this guy crash at the end, at the bottom of the ramp, at the bottom of a ski jump. And I used to feel that all the time, and that is also the mirror neurons in my brain that were firing, that were feeling empathetic and feeling the pain of that. And that, I guess that's why I have a hard time with black comedy or dark comedy. With, the Three Stooges. I don't know if you remember the Three Stooges. My brothers, I had two younger brothers that I'd come home from work, and they were just getting home from school, and they'd watch the Three Stooges on TV about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon back in the 70s, I think it was. And the Three Stooges always bonking each other on the head or boinking their eyes out or, doing all kinds of things that look so hurtful. And after a while, I couldn't watch that anymore because I would feel that. I would really begin to feel what people were feeling. So I really have a hard time with what's called dark comedy or black comedy, where people are getting hurt and laughing about it. To me, that's not something that can be laughed about because my mirror neurons are firing and feeling the discomfort or the pain or the anguish or whatever's happening in that so-called comedy, and it's not funny to me. It's not funny, and it hurts me. So I really, truly stay away from dark comedy or black comedy for that reason, because I'm very sensitive to that. So what is your life like? Are you sensitive to other person's feelings, to other people's feelings? Are you sensitive when you go to the movies? Can you really feel the emotions that are being depicted on the screen, on the DVD, on the video, or wherever you're watching it? And it's like watching, if you've ever seen a real accident, that... I know when I go by an accident scene, the same thing. I just feel that energy of, I don't even know what happened necessarily, but I feel it in my body in such a way that I actually say a prayer. And I send blessings, and I ask the overlighting angels to come down and help whatever's going on when I pass an accident on the road or something like that. And even accidents that we see on television, like this downing of this jet, this Malaysian jet, sending overlighting energy to that whole area. Because that, again, I can feel that. If we really check in with that, we can feel that in our own body by those mirror neurons firing in our mind, in our brain. Now, that also brings us to the point, to another place of where competition or competition is another place where we want to win, we want to go forward, we want to be the one who is celebratory of winning over another team or another person. And again, I have a hard time with that now because I empathize with the loser. I empathize with the ones that they tried and they played just as hard, like the soccer tournaments that just passed in Brazil. One team scored 1 goal in all of that time. Both teams played just as hard. And when I watched the ceremony at the end, it was just so difficult to watch the losing team and how sad they were. I could really feel that. What's the point? What is the point of having this competition when empathy and caring and compassion and love are really what we are all about as human beings? So looking at that in your life, look at that. How do you feel about that? Maybe you don't agree with me. Maybe you like competition rather than having love and compassion. And so we'll go on to that disagreement or that other place that you're coming from, if you come from that place. I know that the longer I'm here on this planet, because I used to be a competitive person. I used to ride horses. I used to compete in horse shows. And when I lived in Florida, I started training horses, and that was something that I wanted to do for a living, and worked with some trainers training Arabian horses in Florida and going to horse shows. However, there came a point when I saw the rigorous things that we did to our horses for them to hold their head right, for them to pick up their feet right, for them to move their head a certain way, for them to be so beautiful and perform exactly the way we human beings thought was appropriate to win a blue ribbon. When I saw that and I felt what I was doing to those horses was totally unnatural and totally not what I believed in, not what I felt was true, I had to give up. I had to stop that dream that I had. I had a dream of becoming a horse trainer and professionally training horses and going to the horse show, go around in a circle and the judge judges you and you get a ribbon and the blue ribbon wins, and it's so subjective anyway as far as, and political as far as what the judge likes and dislikes. Does he like you? Does he like your owners? There's so many politics involved, but it's all about competition, about winning. What is winning? What if winning is embracing your fellow man or your fellow being and having empathy for them and loving them and helping them to live a fuller, healthier, joyous life? What if that's winning? What if winning is about being equal to another person rather than being better than another person? What if we can have fun playing these games, but not have to win, but have fun and congratulate each other for playing our best, for doing our best, and for enjoying the moment, the thrill of scoring and the thrill of racing up and down the field, but not the thrill of being better than necessarily, which unfortunately is where competition has gone today in all of our, in everything, pretty much. Everything is about us winning, as the United States being bigger than Russia or China, when really we're no longer that, and we need to really recognize it, I guess. So let's have a gong on that. As we're talking about God today, and I am, your I am presence, and how you believe around what is God. Maybe you don't even have a belief about God or creator or source energy, but you live your life in a certain way that perhaps follows the golden rule of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, which is a very universal way of living, a very universal belief. And as my friend Don Drew would say, a belief is a belief you continue to believe, which can always change. So, and that's what I have really come to understand in my life too. As I've told you before, looking back at my life when I was an accountant, when I thought I had to follow these rules, where I thought I had to go in and make a living and come home to pay my bills. Well, we all do have to do that, but do we really? I don't know. I'm beginning to think differently around that. Think differently around having to go to work and come home, go to work and come home, go to running on the wheel, running on the proverbial consumer wheel of buying and needing to buy things. And I'm beginning to question that in my own life because I'm coming of retirement age so that I will get my Social Security, and we'll gong on that one, because hopefully it'll be around for everyone. However, one person that is seen in this movie very briefly is a person known as Peace Pilgrim. And I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, someone introduced me to this little book, Peace Pilgrim. Peace Pilgrim was a woman who really dropped out of society, and she walked and walked and walked everywhere in the United States. She just walked as a symbol of peace, as a symbol of needing nothing. She had nothing. She just walked, and people took her in and fed her and let her sleep at different places. But she was at the mercy of her walking and her peace pilgrimage of simply walking on the earth, expressing her desire for peace, giving her life to that awareness. Walking down the road, she had a T-shirt or a shirt that said Peace Pilgrim, and that's what she did. I forget how old she was when she started, maybe 50 or so, I don't really remember, but she did that for a long, long time. She just gave up everything and walked for what she believed in, which was peace. And some people may think that's pretty crazy. and some people may not. But look at Gandhi. Gandhi gave up. He gave up a lot of things to pull India out of colonialism, away from the British, so that India could be a sovereign nation. He did that non-violently through fasting and through peaceful activism. And now India is a thriving country, and actually a great democracy in its own right nowadays. And so it shows us that all things are possible, and it doesn't have to happen through competition. It doesn't have to happen through fighting and through pushing and through hurting other people and through killing and through war. It does not have to happen that way. In fact, one of the other pieces that comes out of this I Am DVD was studying animals and studying herds of animals. And we think about like the lions fighting over things, and the butting heads of the dominant elk and deer fighting for their dominant superiority in a herd. And we think that that's how we're supposed to be, fighting all the time to show our dominance. Where they found that in studying herds of deer, or herds of animals, that cooperation was really much more important, and really the whole herd followed cooperation in a democratic manner. So what they did is they studied this whole herd of deer, and through there were like 3 different water holes, places for them to drink. And they thought that this people studying this thought that, well, those big, powerful male deer would most likely decide when it's time for the herd to move and go to water and to drink. Well, as they studied this herd, they actually could witness that what happened was, one by one, different members of the herd would put their head up and start looking toward the water hole that they wanted to go to. And one by one, the deer started looking toward one of those water holes. When it came to the 51st percentile of the herd looking toward that one water hole, the whole herd started moving toward that water hole. And these 2 dominant male deer that were butting heads, fighting over whatever they were fighting over, the female, I guess, were kind of left behind looking at, well, where'd everybody go? There was a democracy around which water hole they go to, when they go to it, and the whole herd went kind of on their own to the right water hole, with whatever the timing was for the best for the herd. So it happened in a democratic way, for the good of all. It was cooperation. And that was just one instance that talked about cooperation in the wild. And there are many, many, many. In fact, overall, if you look at the whole animal kingdom, you will see that cooperation, that each individual has a vote as far as what is being done and how it is being done. And we think that how can they be voting? They're not talking to each other. There's no verbal communication. They cooperate through energy. They cooperate through telepathy, through the invisible vibration of understanding what they're all doing, by watching and by connection, an energetic connection that we all have to everyone all the time. That's how they communicate. If you look at a flock of birds, as another good example, you look at a flock of starlings, and they're all up there, they're swooping down, all of a sudden they change direction, and then all of a sudden they change direction again, and then they change direction again. How are they doing this? I've always wondered that, and they sort of talk about it in this DVD, I Am. How do they know, instant by instant to change direction, to move here, out to land? I love watching pigeons too, and they're all up there, and then they all land on the telephone pole. They're all communicating wing beat by wing beat by wing beat. They're all communicating to each other, and they're voting. They're voting which way to go, and they're kind of all communicating and deciding. And not only do animals do this, but insects do this. But this is the way of nature. Nature does this. How can that be? Well, another piece of this DVD that I've learned is DNA and the Genome Project. The Genome Project that mapped out our DNA, our genomes, our genes. They've compared our human genes with pretty much all living things on this planet. And 99.9% of our genes match up with everything else that is living, everything else on this planet, which means we're all the same. We all have the same stuff. We all have the same DNA. Not only humans, but trees, grass, animals, birds, insects, fish. Everything has the same DNA, 99.99%. So what does that mean? It means that we also are created in our DNA to cooperate, not to be in competition, not to be better than, but to cooperate, to help one another. If you look at what happened at 9/11, as we all know where we were on September 11th, 2001, it was a terrible tragedy for this country, terrible tragedy for humanity. Well, there are these random number generators that are stationed. I think there's like 65 of them or 60-something of them in different 65-something cities all around the earth. These random number generators. And these generators are kind of, they're like flipping a coin. And they're just generating numbers just as an experiment to reading the energy of the earth while they're randomly generating numbers. On September 11th, 2001, all those random number generators, if you look at the history of them, they were all just random, 5, 6, 7, 8, blah, blah, blah. They were just doing all these random numbers all the time. When those planes hit the Trade Center, the first plane in New York City, on September 11th, 2001, all those random generators, this is documented, they all went into sequence of 0 and 1, 0 and 1, only 0 and 1. All of those random number generators proved, and they were reading the consciousness, the vibration of the earth, that our cooperation level, that's cooperation. Nothing's random anymore. There's a cooperation that's welled up around the earth. The energy of the earth changed. And it's documented. You can see that in these random number generators that are just sort of keeping track of the energy of the earth as being random. And not only can they see it on 9/11, but they can see it at other events around the earth. They're constantly reading this. So that is another proof, another real scientific proof that we are cooperative, compassionate, empathetic beings, and that the general majority of us can change the vibration of the earth, can change our way of living so that we are creating the compassionate, loving, cooperative society and life that we're here to do, that I feel I am here to do. And that's what I'm here doing this television show for, is to express that in so many different ways, however those ways come into my life, and then giving you the opportunity to sort of weigh that in your own life. How could that be? How can it be that we are truly cooperative, caring, empathetic, loving people? But we are. We're hardwired for that. And science is realizing this and proving it more and more and more every day. Every day we have more experiments that are being proven, that are showing that that's who we are. If that's who we truly are, and yet we're not living that way, that I'm not living that way today, it gives me hope to know that I can always come back to that, because that's the basis of who I am. That's the basis of why I'm here. That's the basis of why I am alive. That I am a compassionate, caring, loving being. And so when I trip up and when I fall and when I get angry and maybe I spread some bad words over here, or maybe I complain over there, or maybe I make judgments here, I can then come back and bring myself back to that's not who I truly am. That is not who I truly am. I'm a loving, compassionate, caring being. And what I just did, I may be regretful for, but I find a way to forgive myself and come back. And that is how we find true health, I believe, in our body, in our life, in our being, in our physiology, in our psychology, in our spirituality. That is how we find who we truly are and why we are here. I know many people on the planet right now are looking for, what is my passion? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? I'm not happy. I'm not happy in this job putting pegs in a hole, or I'm not happy in this job, what I used to do, accounting, balancing two columns of number day after day after day. This number goes here, this number goes there. At the end of the month, you make sure that the column A equals column B, and everybody's happy because the bottom line is black and not red. I got tired of that. I didn't. Spirit, God, Creator, whatever, moved me, and it was painful at first, moved me from living that life and knowing I was unhappy to where I am right now, more happy than I've ever been in my life. Yes, I have my downtimes, but I have to say I am more happy than I've ever been. And I have to say that Creator, consciousness, God has moved me here because I have always questioned all my life. I've always questioned, why am I here? What am I doing here? How come I'm doing this? I don't like this. What is life all about? Why am I doing something I don't like? Why am I hurting? Why am I depressed? Why am I angry? And so always questioning that in my life has brought me to this place now of doing something I never thought I would be doing, talking to you on a television show. I never, ever thought that I would have my own TV show here in Manchester, New Hampshire, talking to you about my passion, which is compassion, which is cooperation, which is loving and caring, which is full health, which is finding ways for me to be healthy and express that to you, give you the opportunity to see what makes you happy, what makes you tick, how can you be happy and how can you be healthy. So many people are unhealthy and hurting and in pain. So many people. I've been there. I've done that. And there are times when I do experience pain. However, when I experience pain, my consciousness, my reaction to that is different today than it was 20 years ago. I grew up having a very healthy life, very healthy and expecting to be healthy all of my life. And so when pain came into my life about 20 years ago or so, when pain and discomfort and I couldn't live my life the way I wanted to anymore, when that happened, I really began questioning and searching and going places and asking people and finding answers that helped me to then live healthy, live happy. And we all have that ability within us. You do. No matter what the pain is, if you have a chronic condition that you've had for a long time, only you have the ability to shift that and change that. I know that we all, well, not we all, but many people go to the medical model looking for answers, and they come up against a dead end with certain chronic illnesses. Like cancer, you've got so many months to live, you've got so many weeks to live. Well, I'm sorry, you can make a different choice than that because you're an infinite being. Look at your life from a different perspective. There have been many, many, many documented instances of spontaneous remission. How can that be? What triggered that? It's all about you. It's all about you, what you believe, how you live your life. What is your spiritual connection to yourself and to the greater good of all things? How do you live your life? What are you looking for in your life? Do you complain a lot? Do you always point the finger outside of yourself? Everything in life is about coming home to yourself and realizing that you and I, me and you, going to that one. We're all connected. We're all one. I am you and you are me. And when we realize that, I am. The I am means I am God, but I am you, and you are me, and we are all one. And that sounds like a Beatles song of I Am the Walrus, but as I was going to talk about that once, but not going to do it today. We are all one. When we begin to realize that we are not separate, that you are my sister and brother, I am your sister, I am your family, you are my family. When we begin to embrace each other from that perspective, life changes. Life can be different. You can become healthy. I was brought to a point today of thinking about when I first went off from my home when I grew up, the home where I grew up. I stayed at home until I was 28 because I had a horse in the backyard, and I was a horse person. I loved working with my horses and training them and going to horse shows. So I stayed home because we had a barn and some fields and stuff where I grew up. And so I stayed home till I was 28. And then when I was 28, I had an opportunity to go to work on a horse farm because this friend of mine that actually went into horse training and the first time I ever flew was going to see him in Tucson, Arizona. He went to an Arabian farm down there to apprentice. So I went down to see him, and that hooked me up with my life's dream of working on a horse farm and maybe becoming a horse trainer. That was back in the late 70s. And so one summer, finally, I had this opportunity to move out of my homestead and find a home for my horse. In fact, I think that my friend took my horse and on lease so that I could do this. I went to this farm in Maryland. And so I got this job on a farm in Maryland. And it was an Arabian farm owned by this older woman. She was a pretty old lady, and her husband had died. I think it was called, well, I won't go into the name, but her daughter had another farm next door where I actually lived. So I lived on her daughter's farm as a apartment, and then I worked at this other Arabian farm. And while I was living there, my apartment was down in like a cellar underneath. I think it was in the barn area, but it was in a cellar. So I was kind of below ground. And I began to develop arthritis in my thumbs, and every day I'd wake up and my thumbs would be killing me. My fingers, my joints would be killing me. And I started thinking, oh, I don't like this. I don't. And I thought, my thought was that this part of the country, this part of Maryland, Central Atlantic states, perhaps is a. What came to me was that was not an environment that was healthy for my body. That my body would, plus living in a cellar, living in a damp environment with no light, sleeping there. I was probably there for about 2 or 3 months. So luckily, what happened was I got an opportunity for a job in Florida, and that's my connection to the horse farm in Florida. Was the person that worked at the farm in Maryland connected me with his son, he was a horse trainer in South Florida, South Miami, and I got a job. So I was able to go then from Maryland to South Florida, and I was thankful for that because I didn't have to live in that cellar anymore. But the thing was, when I was living there, and I could see that I was prone to arthritis in my hands. A change happened in me, and a change of a conscious awareness of really believing that I am not going to ever get arthritis, that I am going to pay attention to my body in such a way that I am not going to get arthritis. And I have to say that whenever I have a little ache or pain in my fingers, I pay attention to them. I pay attention to myself right away. And because I know that a lot of people have problems with their fingers and their joints and rheumatoid arthritis appearing, and I know that I very easily could have developed that if I did not pay attention to that. But it's all about consciousness. It's about making a choice. Like I made a choice in that moment. I didn't choose to go to a doctor and get drugs. I didn't choose to go to see someone that would know more than me about that. I paid attention to my body, and I asked, and I didn't even realize at the moment that I was asking, but I guess I asked God or whatever I believed in at the time, what should I do about this? How can how do I change this? I don't want to have arthritis. Who wants arthritis? And so, but God moved me, didn't he? Or she moved me to Florida, to a place where it was hot and sunny and beautiful all the time, where I can hang around in tank top and shorts. And not that I did on the horse farm. I did a tank top, but I had always wore jeans and boots being around horses. But I moved to a different climate where that was no longer a problem. So the thing is, and what the point of this is, I made a choice. I made a difference in my life that my hands are going to be usable and healthy and strong. And when I feel pain, when I feel discomfort in my hands, I am going to pay attention to them and care about them in a way that keeps them healthy. And every now and then I can feel, oh, this joint here might be, getting a little inflamed. So you can actually work with your fingers and work with your body in some way by touching it yourself, doing work on your own body yourself, wherever that is in your body, and bringing your own conscious awareness there to help you, to allow the greater awareness of all that there is to guide you by giving you information like I received that day or that time when I lived in Maryland back in the late 70s. And if you look back at your life, you can look at those choices that you made. As I'm doing now, I'm looking at this choice that I made that I didn't even realize was divinely guided, a guidance that came through, that helped me to kind of just say to myself, what's going on? How did this happen? Why is this happening? And there's a lot more to it than that, because arthritis has other contributing factors, diet, not only diet, lifestyle, thought process, emotional stuckness that gets stuck in your joints. Our joints are a very big place for emotions, for negativity and anger to get stuck. So there's all different ways to look at what's going on in your body. But the biggest thing for me right now is to continually come back to remembering that I am the creator of my own life, my own health, my own process. And we're all related. We're all connected. And the more I can be that way, the happier I become. And noticing when I am not aligned to that, when I'm not aligned to my caring, loving self, when I'm not aligned to that, life goes astray. Things happen. I get pain in my body. I get anxious, or I get depressed, or I get angry, or I kick something and hurt my toe. Things like that happen. So let's have a little gong on that one. You need to do a little more gonging today. And remember to breathe. Oxygen. Another piece that this movie I Am brought to me was how it is that oxygen. What is it in oxygen that has been circulating around the globe for eons, for centuries, for millennia, that connects us to all things? I thought it was the oxygen. I think I said that once before. However, it is argon that is in oxygen. There is a molecule of what's called argon, which is a metal on the chemistry chart of elements. It's an element, argon, that has been breathed in and out by every being that has ever lived on this planet. And so it begs the question of who's breathing the air that you're breathing in now? Who had breathed in the air that you're breathing in now? Beethoven, or dinosaurs, or cavemen, or whatever, had been breathing in this oxygen, because it's all being recycled all the time, isn't it? This lovely envelope that the earth has around it, this atmosphere that is around the earth, is constantly being recycled, and has been as long as the earth has been earth. And so we're all connected through that, if nothing else. What a lovely idea, what a lovely thought. Another way that we are all one. We are all connected. We are I am that I am. We are all that there is. And so, what a lovely feeling, what a lovely thought. And let's have some silence for just a little bit. Silence. What is silence like for you? Go out in the woods. Take a walk in a field. Go somewhere where there's no people. Oops. Go somewhere where no one is there but yourself and sit in silence. As Simon and Garfunkel had said, the sounds of silence. But being on the earth, as if the earth were your mother, because she is, and everything on the earth is your brother and sister. Everything on the earth is your relative. The butterfly, the bee, the grass, the trees, the air, the clouds, the soil, the dirt, the worms, everything. What if you lived from that place of everything being your brother or sister, everything being your cousin, everything being related to you? So there you have it. We are all related, and we are what I am that I am. And I just, before we close, wanted to say that next week on the show, my good friend Dorothy Morgan will be here. She is an astrologer, and we'll be talking about astrology next week. And then the week after that, I have another friend coming. Her name is Bernice White. She's from Bermuda, and she does all kinds of other energy healing, and we'll talk about a similar subject. And so I hope you enjoyed the show today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you again to ManchesterTV.org and to John Eric O'Neill for being my technical director. Until next time, remember, your heart knows the way.